Hey there, fellow palm freaks. I figured I'd do even an earlier one today. It is 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, so just after high noon here in the North Pacific. I just finished my lunch. We had a really nice hike this morning. Wendy and I were actually back by 9:45. So there's a lot of trails and parks on our island. So went through for a nice hike through the forest down the road, and I spread a couple of thousand palm seeds around like I usually do. And next year we should see lots of seedlings emerging in that forested walk. Generally, I don't like to hike because I work in the parks, I work in the trails, my job. And most of the time when I'm walking through the forest, I'm packing a chainsaw and tools, heavy tools to clear trees off of trails and branches off of trails and other things. So every time I go for a hike, it's more like a work to me. So this one here wasn't really a parks trail. It was another trail, but it does eventually meet up with a parks trail as you get farther into the forest. And there's some really nice old growth trees there to see. There's trees that are 500-600 years old in that forest. I did take some pictures of them and I did post them in the palm group along with some palmy pics too. I always like to put some palmy pics in there too. And then there's another bunch of palm seed that I will be taking into the forest with me and spreading around. So those are Trachycarpus fortunae seeds. I don't know if anybody's out there listening right now, but if you're not, that's okay. I can babble away for a bit. Hopefully you're out there enjoying your gardens. I did do some gardening this morning, and we put up a tiki totem in front of Wendy's art gallery studio. She's finishing it up, and it looks really good. The outside finish, and she wanted one of my tikis to be placed in front. Hope you're all having good weather out there. It is about just about 17 degrees Celsius here, and sun hasn't even come around to midday yet. It's still over there, and midday is there, so it still has to come around. So it's quite nice here. I'm in the shade, but I can see the sun all around me, and beautiful day. Looks like we got a mixed bag throughout the week. And that's fine by me because when you get scattered showers off and on in the dry season, that saves us. It saves us watering. Excuse the saw in the background. Wendy's doing some building. Aloha to all. Let's put that in there too. And I hope everybody's palm trees and gardens are growing very well out there. I'm going to probably head down to the nursery after this Palmcast and plant up some seedlings. I have a lot of sable seedlings I have to transplant, and still a lot of Trachycarpus fortunae that I have to take out of the trays and put into liner-sized pots. So when I grow them, I sow the seeds in trays. They germinate in the trays, and then from there, I take them out and put them into small 2.5-inch size liner size pots, and those go into unheated cold frames for the winter. So none of our palms receive any winter heat. Okay, even in the greenhouse is not heated either. It's got Christmas lights on it. If the temperatures are going to get really ugly cold, I turn on the Strand to C9 Christmas lights, and there's dual fans going 24/7, 365 days of the year. So you got to keep the air circulating in a greenhouse to stop botrytis. That's good nettle tea. Botrytis is a fuzzy mold that can really inflict a lot of the plants, especially Washingtonia palms. I find they're very susceptible to botrytis. And sables, I've never seen it on, or Trachycarpus. They can handle the humidity in the greenhouse, the cold humidity, because it does get damp in there in the wintertime with no heat. But Washingtonia, once they start getting botrytis, the seedlings, most of them, you can kiss them goodbye. Michael Morris, full sun in the valley. Sweet. That is a good thing, man. It is a beautiful day here as well. I don't even see a cloud in the sky. It is clear sky here on the southern Gulf Islands, at least on our Gulf Island. And like I say, it did make for a great walk, and it did make for a great morning to spread a few palm seeds around. There's some Trachycarpus fortunae seeds, so I spread a couple of thousand around on my hike this morning. And I always try to find the wet spots where I'm hiking, and that's where I chuck them. Where are you from, Joe? Michael Morris. I am on Salt Spring Island in the North Pacific, an island in the North Pacific off the southwest coast of Canada. So we're located in the Southern Gulf Islands, Southern Gulf Island chain. The same archipelago is Washington State, San Juan Island. So If you look at Washington State and you go off the coast quite a ways, you'll bump into some islands called the San Juan Islands, and we can see the San Juan Islands from this island. We can look into them from higher elevations here, so we're not that far away from Washington. And where are you? Sun in the Valley. Whereabouts? What valley? We do have valleys here on Salt Spring Island as well. We have a lot of valleys here. The valleys heat up in the summer and they get really cold in the winter on our island because, as you know, cold air is like water. And if a valley is surrounded by hills and mountains, that cold air just flows down into the valley, into the frost pocket, and often pushes that warm up and you get an inversion. So it's generally warmer up here than it is down in the valley. But I do know of some palm trees growing in the valleys. And in one of the valleys in particular, it's quite cold in the Cushion Lake area. There's a very old palm tree growing in there that was planted in 1968. GD Gardens, can you try Guhaya? Is that a palm? Is that a palm native to, I'm going to say Vietnam, or am I wrong? Correct me if I'm wrong. I know there's a hardy species of palm, a hardier species of palm native to northern Vietnam. And I don't know. They say it's hardy, but I don't know if it'd be hardy enough to grow here. I think I have my doubts on it. And anything that grows in Vietnam probably wouldn't grow here. But plants that grow at high elevations in Taiwan will certainly grow here, like Schefflera taiwaniana. That one is a hardier Schefflera like DeLavii, and it does work here on Salt Spring Island because I do know of one growing in a private garden. And I'm also having my doubts on the cuttings I started. They're not looking so good now. They were looking good, putting out growth, and now the growth is flopping. Hello, I love your channel. Hey, right on, Nat. Nice. Well, I love you too. Awesome. Thanks for joining in, and I'm glad you appreciate the videos. GD Garden says Giohaya. I guess that's a Grossa fibrosa. Grossa fibrosa. I don't know if I've ever heard of that one. What is it? Give me some dirt on that plant. Is it a palm or is it something? Is it something else? I got a speck on my glass here and it's driving me crazy. I carved something this morning with a chainsaw, so a speck of sawdust stuck to it. Anyway, folks, yeah, I hope everybody's staying safe out there and having fun in their gardens. Like I say, it's a beautiful day here on the Southern Gulf Islands. And as you know, we are into the dry season, but we did actually receive some rain the other night, which is really a blessing for gardeners because it saves us watering the garden. And we have a very large garden, and it does take time to water in the dry season. And we usually break it up. Wendy takes the upper garden, I go to the lower garden, and then I make my way up to the upper garden after I finish the lower garden. But, you know, there's a good couple hours of watering here anyway when you start on it because there's a lot of plants. And then a lot of the plants don't need watering because they're drought tolerant, but some of the other ones definitely do suffer. That's the only time Trachycarpus palm trees actually will suffer here, especially the younger ones. They are susceptible to the drought in the poor dry soil, and that you can see they're often stressed by midsummer here. And even the bananas too, if you don't water them every day, around the leaf margins, around the edge, they start to burn out and turn dry. So bananas, if you guys are growing bananas out there, Musabaju, give them lots of water. They like ample summer irrigation. They are also heavy feeders. And a buddy of mine just messaged me the other night and he says, Joe, sit down for this. You're probably not going to believe it. This is a guy I never thought that would grow an exotic plant. He says, I bought my first banana plant. He bought a Musabaju. He sent me a picture of it. So I set him up to one of my Facebook groups, people who love palm trees and exotic plants. So he's now in that group. So hopefully Ian will be posting pictures of his banana. He just lives down the road from me here. And I sent him some pictures of mature ones in private gardens here. And he was kind of blown away by it. And he knows what I grow. I don't think he's seen our bananas. He hasn't been to the back of our property. The bananas are growing in behind the house. So nobody can really see them when they drive by. Matter of fact, it's pretty hard to see in here when you drive by. There's so many plants. GD Gardens, it's a palm. Once confused with Trachycarpus, now has the genus. It is. Okay, I wonder if that's the one. It's a fan palm. It's a small fan palm. So is that the one that's native to, is it Taiwan maybe? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not Vietnam. Is it Taiwan? I think I've seen pictures of it, and I have an extensive collection of palm tree encyclopedias that I got long before the internet ever came around. Okay, so before the internet, I was doing my research with palm books. So Palms of the World and all the other ones, I got a stack of them there, and I'm sure I've seen that one. Green onions in the garden. Grow green onions in the garden. Layla, we do have green onions, and matter of fact, we also have some chives. I'm going to flip this around. Can you see the chives right there in that pot? They're actually flowering. They're beautiful. And we also planted Walla Walla onions. That's what Wendy and her daughter planted in the garden there. Lots of Walla Wallas. Stays small. Yeah, I know the palm GD gardens. I definitely know the palm. I've seen picture and I've actually thought about it. It's not available anywhere here in Canada. It would have to be seed would have to be imported or maybe bought at rarepalmseeds.com, and you propagate it yourself and put her to the test. But how hardy is hardy? I wonder. Um, who do we have in here? Pam. Let's just see. Pam, the Netherlands. Sweet. No, PSM, not Pam. Greetings from the Netherlands. Greetings to you from Salt Spring Island. Crispy, hello from Germany. Your garden is very nice. Nice palm trees. I like the Wagnerianus. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, we grow several Wagnerianus in the garden. And you know what? I had a buddy phone me a few days ago, and he says, Joe, I got a birthday present for you. My birthday was at the end of March, and he'll be coming out here probably in a couple of months once this pandemic thing is passed. And he bought me two nice Trachycarpus wagnerianus palms from a grower on the mainland. I have a friend that's a grower and specializes in Trachycarpus wagnerianus palms. So he's going to bring me two Trachy wagnerianus palms and another passion vine for the garden, which is really nice. He's a good friend of mine and a longtime palm grower too. I got him into growing palms 30 years ago, and he has some towering palm trees in his garden. You should see them. We planted them when they were small, and now they're about 30 feet tall. And the best thing about them, they are locally grown. They were grown from Vancouver stock. So let me put my glasses on here, folks. Sun does bother my eyes. Hope everything's well in Germany there, Chris. Hope you're having good weather. And the weather here is really beautiful today. It's just around 17 degrees Celsius. Current time is 12:42 p.m. Pacific time. I said to Wendy, I want to do a live stream today a little bit earlier for people that live in Europe. And that way it's not so late there because I know you guys are about 8 hours ahead of us or 9 hours ahead of us. So hopefully that helps out for you folks in the Netherlands, Germany, Ireland, England, and Sweden and Norway. And I know there's other people out there listening too, not necessarily joining in, but sometimes they like to listen. Do you have Sable Birmingham? Yes, we do. C. Centol. I've grown many from seed. We have one or two small ones in the ground. The problem with Sable Birmingham, and I got the seed from Macon, Georgia, quite a few years ago, very slow growing up here along with all the other sable palms. Hardy enough for our climate, but very slow growing. So we'll put them in the hottest spot if you live up here in the North Pacific. One of the nicest sables I know of is growing at a friend of mine's place in Seattle, John Spalding, and it is a sable cassarium. He planted it in 1989 when it was small, and now it is quite a big palm tree. I went down there on a garden tour in 1997, took some photos of it, and I have recent photos of it from the last couple of years that somebody posted, and it's actually a pretty nice size palm now. He also has a nice size Parajubea beside his house as well. Not to mention Camarops. Emmanuel, I saw some of your videos with oleanders. Do you have some? And does it really grow? Yes, oleander grows very well here. There's a lot of people that grow oleander on Salt Spring Island. The key with oleander, try to get the hardier ones. We grow some pinks, whites, reds, and there's a hedge of them in Ganges. There's a hedge of them at a friend's place near town, and there's a lot of them growing at Grace Point, but usually mixed in with other plants. They like full sun and give them as much heat as you can. A really, really bad winter is going to whack them back, but they usually resprout again. We chopped ours back because Wendy didn't like the looks of them. They're getting way too leggy. Ours are about 8 feet tall and kind of spindly, so we cut them back, and now they're sprouting out everywhere because she figures, and it's true, when you cut some plants back, it does encourage growth to the side, kind of like that crazy maple tree. See that crazy maple tree right there? Anyway, that's ivy growing up. That's a broadleaf evergreen invasive species. I cut the top off of that tree about 40 feet, and now it's sprouting out all off the side. So I got to keep breaking off the shoots because it is going to regrow again if I don't keep on top of it. I think I might have to ram a few copper spikes into it to nuke that tree because big leaf maple, that's a native big leaf maple. They're really hard to kill here. And I like them. I just don't like them hanging over the house. They're very messy and they're very brittle, the branches, and sometimes they just drop branches without warning, kind of like a eucalyptus. And we have a lot of eucalyptus tree, and yeah, sometimes they drop the odd branch, and they're big branches, and they can do a lot of damage if they're near your house. So I always be careful when you plant trees too. Trees with big root systems, keep them away from your house. Palm trees you can plant right up close to your house. Palm trees don't lift sidewalks or break foundations. I got a friend south of Vancouver, there southeast of Vancouver, has got a massive Canary Island date palm beside his house. Well, the trunk's massive now, and it is right up against his foundation. I don't think it's going to do any damage because the roots on them are not like a big tree, but the trunk on it is really, really huge. And what about tropical fruits with protection? The most tropical fruits we grow here. Well, I don't know if they're tropical. Fig trees are a dime a dozen. Everybody grows figs here. They don't need protection. There's a fig farm down the road. We grow them on a commercial scale. Olives grow here commercially. There's a commercial olive farm here. A lot of people grow them in their garden. We grow loquat, no protection needed. Pomegranate needs no protection. Almonds grow out fine, no protection, and hardy citrus. And you can see some of my videos on hardy citrus that I actually shot this past winter with oranges growing on them on a winter day here on Salt Spring Island. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting fruits that grow here on Salt Spring, and we are far from tropical. We're Mediterranean-like climate here. PSM, I have T. wagnerianus that has fallen down with, oh no, the roots didn't damage, but put soil in them and pulled to, yeah, that's good. Can I do something else to prevent this in the future? Well, I wonder why it blew over. Is your soil that soft? Or is it, yeah, I'm wondering. You know what? I would keep that staked for a while. There's nothing much you can really do about it. And keep that thing staked long enough where the roots will actually fill out more and then maybe it'll be more stable. So possibly, I don't know if it was just planted and it didn't have a good root system on it, or did you transplant it and it's a taller palm with a small root system? That'll often happen. I transplanted one a month or so ago and I have it kind of staked up because it was in soft soil and I have it growing in soft soil. Can you grow pecans up there? Not that I know of. I don't think so. Down here in Southeast US, yeah, I think well, I don't know. It might be the units. I mean, pecan, the tree might be hardy enough, but I don't know if it would ever set fruit here. I don't know. What is the hardiness of a pecan tree? We grow edible chestnuts and stuff like that, walnuts, hazelnuts, which are filberts, but I've never heard of anybody growing a pecan. But almonds are fine. Almond trees, they'll get big here, and I've eaten lots of local almonds. Sandy soil. Okay, PSM. That was probably the problem. You know what? I would keep that thing staked. You should have probably, if it's sandy, I would definitely add some good organic matter to that soil, some bagged manure, some good topsoil, and then maybe it'll get a chance to root out better. Sand probably isn't the greatest thing for it to root out in, and there's not a lot of nutrition in sand. There's more nutrition in clay than sand. The problem is with clay, the particles are so small, smaller than a grain of sand, they pack together and the water can't penetrate through it in the winter. So often you can get root rot if you live in a clay laden area. But I've been proving that wrong with my Trachycarpus variant Swampsonii, which I like to call them. If you see the latest video I uploaded this morning of seedling growing in water, it's actually growing in the creek and it's been growing in there all winter. It germinated last year and it's been growing in standing water all winter. Excuse me, and it's still growing in standing water. So obviously, boggy, waterlogged soil does not bother that type of palm. PSM, do you mean Hurricane Sandy? Hurricane Sandy. That would have blown over a few things, but you know what? I think even a lot of palms probably didn't get blown over, but I bet you a few of them did lose their tops. Jane Tang, drought is something that can be endured, but rot is a quick. Yeah, you are so smart. You know what? More people lose plants from root rot than they do to cold here in the North Pacific. Okay, so if you put it this way: if you go outside and you dig a hole on your property and you fill it with a bucket of water, and then you go inside and you have a tea or a coffee, and you come out about a half hour later, and that that hole is still full of water or it's barely even gone down a bit. That's what it's doing around your roots of your plant all winter. So yeah, Jane, you are so right. It will kill your plants, root rot. Jane, you're smart. Sea Sentinel, I wonder if Trachycarpus can handle the hurricanes like other palms. I'm going to say yeah. I think they could probably handle them pretty good. I'm sure there's got to be hurricanes. I mean, I'm sure there's got to be a lot of them growing in North and South Carolina. I'm sure there's other species there too, which I've seen. But um, the Trachycarpus fortunae, I bet you they could probably handle it like a sable palmetto. What do you think? Anybody in North or South Carolina or Northern Florida or Georgia that grows Trachycarpus fortunae that's gone through hurricanes? Give us the dirt. I want to know. I know there's date palms down there in South Carolina, and lots of sables, and there's even Washingtonias, and they had to go through hurricanes. So I don't see why not. They all have a pretty similar root system, like Washingtonia and sables and Trachycarpus probably all have a very similar root system on them. I'm glad we don't get a lot of hurricanes up this way. We do get hurricane force winds every so often, but it's pretty rare. The last one we had come through, they called it the storm of the century. That was December 2018. It was pretty nasty, and that's when I've talked about. I do have videos of it here, and Wendy does have a video of it on her YouTube channel as well. It was a crazy windstorm, and I'm grateful nobody got hurt or killed. PSM, I meant sandy soil. I dug that out and put good soil in the root so it can get good for you. Sorry, no, it's okay. You're doing good, PSM. Yeah, that's all you got to do. So what I would do with your trachea, since it blew over, guy wire it, use some ropes, use some stakes. You can put some stakes up against it and wrap it up so it stays stable. It doesn't. I just put some stakes against mine. So the one that I dug out has about 6 feet of trunk on it or so. And I do have a video of us here digging out. So does Wendy, has it on her channel, Gulf Island Rock. And what I did, I put it in the soil, a nice hole, and I put stakes around it like a tripod. And then I roped it off so it doesn't move. Emmanuel, here in the tropics, the rain pattern is opposite. Mostly summer weather means rain. Yeah, you're lucky. See, here our summers are extremely dry. Spring and summer's dry, and late fall and winter extremely wet and cool. Okay, so what I mean by cool, daytime temperatures in the mid 40s to around 50. Minimum temperatures don't usually drop below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Once in a blue moon, they do, and that's when we get our freeze in the winter, but it doesn't last long. So if you have dry winters and wet summers, you can definitely grow more. Like Lugano, Switzerland. People always ask me, how can they grow so much stuff in Lugano, Switzerland and Locarno, Switzerland when it's the same latitude as Portland, Oregon? Well, the difference between there and here is their winters are very dry. They also get extreme summer heat, and their summers are very wet and humid. So they can get far more species of palms to grow there. There's mature Phoenix canariensis, there's Washingtonias, there's Butias, huge ones, there's Jubea, there's Brahia, there's huge oleanders the size of elephants, and everything else under the sun. And Trachycarpus are weeds. Rocky Clemens, I have a palm tree that has thorns on it, and the fronds are droopy. Do you have an idea? Thorns on it? Well, like thorns on the petioles. So here's your frond, and the petiole is the stem that goes between the trunk and the frond. And Trachycarpus don't have thorns, but Camarops and Washingtonia palms have thorns on them. Yeah, you would need to see a picture of it. And some palms actually have thorny trunks too. Like, I'm trying to think the one, Plectocoma himalayana. I grew it years ago. It's a climbing palm, and it's a pinnet, and it had full of thorns on it. Aloha and cheers to Joe. Come on, y'all. Brian Lowry. Hey, good to see you in there, buddy. Sweet, man. Jonathan Bettinger. Yes, I like your little palmy emojis. Great. Yeah, Rocky, I'm not exactly sure what that would be. What is your growing zone? And does the palm have suckers? Does it have offshoots coming off the base of the trunk? If so, it could be a Camarops humilis, a Mediterranean fan palm / European fan palm. The palms you see behind me, you know, I counted them yesterday. There's 17 palms. Wendy and I counted those palms. In that group right there, okay, there is 17 palm trees growing. There's lots of smaller ones and stuff, but there's a lot clustered together. We like to cluster them together, and it gives it a more tropical effect. And then around the side, which you can't see, around the side of that building behind me, you can see some of the fronds there. You see right behind me, right there? There are lots of palm trees in there. and huge fatsia trees. I wish I could actually bring this over there and use it. Do you think elephant ear, Paul C? Do you think elephant ear plant could survive on your island? I think that palm with spines could be a pygmy date palm. Oh, yeah, pygmy date palm and Phoenix canariensis. Sorry, yeah, they have spines on them too. Um, elephant ear colocasia. Yeah, if you mulch it and you put it in well draining soil, I've seen people overwinter like the taro type plants here. I guess they call it an elephant ear. It's got the big, cool leaves on him, and it is herbaceous. It dies down in the winter, just kind of like doing canna lilies. A lot of people grow canna lilies here too, and they're fine in the winter. Calla lilies are fully hardy. Jonathan Bettinger, your garden is so palmy. Hey man, palms are good. I love palms, and ever since I started growing palms, it was just like grow them to the max or don't grow them at all. I don't want to have one palm in my garden. I want to have thousands of palm trees in our garden. And we do actually have thousands of palm trees on this property. So if you're ever on Salt Spring Island and you want to see lots of palm trees in we have acreage here. In a garden, we have a lot of them here, and they're all over the place. They're weeds. But yeah, that one. Okay, Paul C. So it's a Phoenix robelinii, a pygmy date palm. And no, those will not grow here in this climate. You'd have to go to California for that, or where Jane lives on the island of Oahu. There are lots of Phoenix robelinii there. They are a beautiful pinnate species native to Cambodia and Laos, and not very good for inside use. I've grown them many moons ago, and they're always susceptible to spider mites. I see Wendy out there doing something with her saw. She's probably going to start that up in a second and make a whole lot of noise. Wendy likes to build stuff, as you know, and she is got a project on the go right now. She's finishing off her studio. She is an artist, and she will often paint palm trees too. And she did a really nice commission painting last June for a couple that had their anniversary in Kauai. She took a picture of it, of some palms with a sunrise or whatever, and Wendy did that, and she gave it to her husband for his birthday or something. So palmy pics are good too, folks. And I hope you guys out there have more than one palm tree in your garden. You can't just stop at one, right? Paul, see, here's a joke that I just made up. Enjoy. Do you know that every person has a palm or two? When you look down your hand, funny no, because yeah, somebody sent me a picture one time. We all have palms. Somebody sent me a picture one time on Facebook, and it was I think it was carved out of wood, and they called it a palm tree, and it was actually a hand like that sticking out of the ground. I thought it was kind of cool. Yes, we all have palms. Hey Brian, do you have any palms? Yeah, I'm wondering, do all of you guys grow palms in there? Um, we have quite a few species growing in our garden, and what we grow here, it's no real trick. We and a lot of people, they visit the garden. Well, how do you do this and how do you grow that? What we do is there's no real trick to it. It's just taking advantage of the climate here on Salt Spring Island. Okay, so I like to milk the climate for all it's worth, and that's what you got to do with your climate. So if you live in Zone 6, milk it for all it's worth. Grow as many Zone 6 or even push the Zone 7 or 8 plants in there if you can. Zone 8 plants are going to need a couple of zones worth of protection. But here, we try to grow mostly Zone 8B9 plants and 9 plants, and they do all very well in our garden. I think probably the most tender plant we grow in our garden, biggest one that's been in the ground the longest, is probably the Yucca gigantea, which is coming up 13 years now in June. I planted it in June 2007, and it's done very well in our garden, and that's more like a Zone 9B plant. I have it in a very sheltered spot. It's got a pretty good sized trunk on it, and hopefully one of these days we'll see it flower. Stay tuned for a video. That would be really cool. Emmanuel, 32 Fahrenheit is the lowest No, it's not the lowest. It will get colder than that. Low. It doesn't often drop below 32, but when it does, we can get down to 24. This last winter, we dropped down to 22.1 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of January. The freeze lasted 3 days. So one morning, the coldest temperatures I recorded were in the early morning. So the one morning was 22 degrees, 22.1. The next morning was around 24, and then the next morning was around 28, and then it got up above freezing again. So that really was the worst freeze we had all winter. And then sporadically throughout the winter, we had some 31s and some 30s Fahrenheit. So It's by far from tropical here. We are in Canada, and we can get freezes. I wish I could grow some of those plants. If it was tropical, I definitely would try them. So, not a hope in hell for growing those guys. I hope you and yeah, Paul, see, it has been very good here so far. The garden is just amazing. It is really jungle-like out there. I did a little garden tour this morning, and it's on the YouTube channel here. Just a quick one of a short, a small portion of our upper garden, and you can see some of the plants we grow in there. We're really big on perennials too, and we try to stay away from annuals. We like things that come up every year. So yeah, things that are low maintenance, and our garden is actually pretty low maintenance. Low maintenance is the way to go. Brian Laurie, what kind? Yes, what kind of palms are you growing there? And how many of you people grow windmill palms? I'm just curious. Any of you folks in the tropics, are you guys growing windmill palms? I want to know. Weather Father, hi Joe, how are the seedlings in your greenhouse? Oh, seedlings are growing like weeds, and the ones that I sowed about 6,000 Trachycarpus fortunae seeds. They're not up yet. I just checked yesterday. It's it's a cooled greenhouse. It is in partial shade now because the maple trees have got their leaves around it, but they will come. They always come up. They'll probably come up in June sometime, and then I'll be busy pulling them out. Jonathan, I do. I have 3 in Zone 6B. Sweet. Good for you, buddy. Some of the windmill and trachy carpet. Yeah, well, I know what a trachy carpet's about. That's just throwing seeds down. It's like carpet bombing with seeds, right? And that's what I did in the nature trail this morning. You see, so you take some of these seeds, take some of those trachycarpus seeds, and when I go on a walk in the nature trail, I chuck them everywhere. So there are thousands of seeds spread around the nature trails, and they come up everywhere. So you can never have enough trachycarpus seeds thrown around. I have about 60 windmill palms grown for free. Right on. Hybrids are nice. I actually prefer the hybrids because they have a nicer frond on them, and the fingers on the fans are closer together. Right? They're almost more like washi. Not quite, but more like washi. A little different than a pure fortunae. So you see the fortunae up there. You see the fans on it. They got the bigger fingers on it, and actually, there's a hybrid right in that clump of palms right there. There's a beautiful hybrid. You can't see it. It's in behind that one right there, and it's done very well. I grew it from seed along with all of those ones. And we have a grove of hybrids down in the lower garden, and it's going to be nice when they flower and set seed, and then I can actually collect some seed off them if they do produce seed. That'll be very interesting, eh? And then we'll have some babies around. The seedlings are smaller than the pure fortunae. The hybrid seedlings. Paul C, I would say some places in BC, Canada has a Mediterranean. Yeah, we have one. Depends where you are. I'm correct. Yeah. Well, our climate policy is Mediterranean-like. Google the climate of Salt Spring Island. Google the climate of the Southern Gulf Islands or Salt Spring Island. It is very Mediterranean-like here. Okay, so warm, dry summers and mild, wet winters. That is Mediterranean-like. So is Victoria. Mike Hunt, can you grow the same exotic plants? And yes, you can. Oak Bay is an extremely mild growing zone. Your zone 9A. Oak Bay is so mild, and so is James Bay. Just drive around and look at some of the gardens. Matter of fact, next time you're driving around, go to 428 Kipling Street, okay? Remember that, 428 Kipling Street near Fairfield, and look at their front yard and tell me what you see. There is a mature grove of palm trees there that was planted about 50 years ago. And in the backyard, in the neighbor's backyard, if you can go between the houses and look, there's an absolutely massive eucalyptus tree. But you're in a really good area, Victoria. Take advantage of it. In front of the Empress Hotel, there's a beautiful Washingtonia robusta, a sable palmetto, and there's trachycarpus palms. There's echiums. There's also big camarops. So lots of nice plants can grow in Victoria. Take full advantage of that climate and milk it for all it's worth. Also drive through Mill Stream sometime. Our Gold Stream. The whole town is full of palm trees down the roads, in the planters, everywhere. It is absolutely awesome. And as you know as well as I do, Victoria is a very palmy place. In Beacon Hill Park, there's some tall old palm trees in there. And past president of the International Palm Society, it was back in the, I thought it was the late 50s. I think it was around 1960 or 61. He wrote about those palms. He described them as the northernmost palms in the Western Hemisphere in Beacon Hill Park. So those palms have been there since the 1950s, I believe. So they're very tall. And there's a lot of other ones in there as well. Yeah, you're welcome, Mike. And you can grow a lot of good stuff there. So just do it. Go to your nursery, pick up some good plants, drive around the neighborhoods, and just observe. Be observant and see what grows in your area. And I'm sure you'll probably see a lot of palm trees and really cool plants. You got the regulate that's regulated by the ocean there, and it's even more south than here. I think you're only about 90 miles. Victoria's only about 90 miles north of Seattle, something like that. It's even milder if you go up the west coast of Vancouver Island to Tofino, uh, Bamfield, Port Renfrew, and Ucluelet, Cape Scott. Very mild on the west coast, but a lot of rain. Emmanuel, do you know about the Royal Poinciana, or we call it here, Royal Poinciana tree? Is that the one where it gets the red flowers on it? I think that's what you're talking about. That's a beautiful tree, and I wish we could grow it here. It'd be like trying to grow jacaranda mimosifolia. That ain't going to work, but I know the tree. Absolutely gorgeous. I also like the Hong Kong orchid tree. That's beautiful. Jonathan, I just got two Chinese fan palms. How much should water? Yes, keep them evenly moist. Unfortunately, ours dried out a little bit. I have one sitting over there, and I think I'm going to stick it in the ground. It's looking kind of sad. Don't let them dry out with any palm when they're in a pot. They don't like to be dried out too much. Once the roots gets too dry, it stresses them out. Rocky Clemens, I do here in 6B, Kentucky, the bluegrass state. Awesome. I have shipped a lot of my palm seed to Kentucky. So we know there are some Salt Spring Island palms growing in Kentucky as well as Tennessee. I've also shipped some of my tikis to Tennessee, none to Kentucky, I don't think, but I've shipped them to Tennessee. Brian Lowry, do you have any tracky carpets? Jonathan, tracky carpets. I like that. Tracky carpets, not tracky carpets, tracky carpets. If you walk down in the back 40 of our property, there are so many palm trees growing. You have to watch where you're walking because there are actually carpets of Trachycarpus palms. Paul C. So you could grow plants in BC, Canada, like you could in places like surround. Yeah, many. We grow a lot of Mediterranean plants here. Okay, we grow Laurus nobilis, which are bay trees. They self-seed here like weeds. We grow oleander. We grow cistus. We grow rock rose, which is cistus. We grow artichokes, Mediterranean fan palms. All that stuff grows out here. Olives. We grow olives on our island. They don't ever need protection. Right out in the open, totally fine, fully hardy on our island. It is a Mediterranean type climate here. That is the truth. And if you get into places like Tennessee, that is actually subtropical type climate, believe it or not. Vice versa. Yes, that one is red where I live. Bloom in a couple of weeks. Cool, that's the one. Yeah, I know the tree. You're lucky you can grow that. Yeah, you got a great climate down there, and you can grow so many beautiful plants, Emmanuel. I'm envious of you. That is awesome. It's funny when you live in a certain climate, you always like if it's a cooler climate, you always want to live in a little bit better climate. Like me, I think I'm living in a pretty good place here. I love Salt Spring Island. Um, but if I had to be anywhere else, I like the Southern Oregon coast or the Hawaiian Islands. That would be my next choice. Bay leaf plants as well. Yeah, bay leaf plants are huge here. We have bay trees all over our property, all over our property. Under one of our 25-foot tall bay trees, there's a forest of bay trees growing because they self-seed. And yeah, they're everywhere. We pick the leaves and we use them in stews and we use them in pasta. And Wendy bags them up and sells them to fresh bay leaves. She also doesn't bag up. She cuts off eucalyptus branches and sells them at a roadside farm stand. We have people buy eucalyptus bundles to put in bouquets, and they also put them in their sauna and showers. So we actually have a roadside stand here, and we sell fresh, organic eucalyptus. You could probably see them now on the other side of the house. You see those trees? There. You see those? Right there. There. There's eucalyptus trees right there. That's some of them. And then there's another one right beside me, a really big one right there. There's eucalyptus. Grew those from seed many moons ago. And yeah, they're pretty big trees now. C. Sentinel, it surprises me that the cities here in North Alabama don't take advantage of the hardy palms. Yeah, they should. You know what? In Alabama, excuse the saw there, Wendy's sawing away. Alabama and northern Alabama, you should have streets lined in sable palmetto. And you could probably go butia and a lot of other really cool palms there. So they should be taking advantage of it, just like they have in the North Pacific here. When you go to Vancouver and suburbs, you will see palm-lined streets, and that's no lie. They should call the part that you are in Palm Island or Palm Part or the Palm part of the island. What's your thought? And yes, I see the trees. Very, very nice. Yeah. There's a lot of palms all over our island, Paul, believe it or not. Just not me. I'm not the only one growing them. There are a lot of palm trees on Salt Spring Island from the very south end to the very north end and everywhere in between. There are thousands of palm trees on Salt Spring Island. I've been to a lot of private gardens here over the years. When I used to work for a large nursery many moons ago, I used to be the palm and exotic plant pusher. Okay. And then every spring at the spring show, I would give talks on palms and exotic plants. And that way I sold a lot of palm trees for them. But I would also deliver soil for that nursery. So I got to see a lot of private gardens, and I've seen a lot of palm trees that are hidden from the public eye all around the island. There's some beautiful ones. Hawaii looks like paradise. I would go there. Yes. 20 hour, it's a 24-hour flight from here, Emmanuel says. It's only about a 5.5 hour flight here from Victoria or Vancouver. But what I do when we fly to Hawaii, so it's not that easy to fly to Hawaii from Salt Spring, first of all, folks. You got to remember I'm on an island, and the only way off of this island is by boat, okay? There's no bridges here to Salt Spring Island. We are surrounded by ocean. So what we do, I park my little truck in the park's workyard. I walk to the bus stop. I drop Wendy off there. We take a transit bus here. I have a small transit system here on Salt Spring. It takes us down to the South End Ferry. So virtually we're island hopping. We take the ferry over to Vancouver Island, the Big Island. Then we hop on a double-decker bus at the terminal, and we go take the bus to a hotel in Sydney on Vancouver Island. Early next morning, we take a taxi to the airport, Victoria Airport. We fly from Victoria Airport to Sea Island. Okay, so we go from Salt Spring Island to Vancouver Island, and then we fly from Victoria on Vancouver Island to Sea Island, where Vancouver Airport is, International Airport. Then we fly to Maui. That's how difficult it is for me to get to Maui. We island hop. It's a long way to get to Maui, that's for sure, from here. But like I say, the flight is only about 5.5 hours. It's getting off our island. It's faster for me to get to Maui if I was to take a direct flight than it is for me to take a ferry and a flight to Vancouver from Salt Spring Island. Jonathan, I wish I saw more palms in my area. I only see some shrubby yuccas. Well, that's okay. You better plant some. You got to plant some palms. Mike, how can the Canary Island date palm survive there when temperature drops below zero? Mike, Canary Island date palms can handle below 0 degrees Celsius. Remember, not 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm talking Celsius here, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The coldest I've heard of Canary Island, Phoenix canariensis, surviving is 13 degrees, 13 and a half degrees Fahrenheit in Gold Beach, Oregon. And I know this because I asked a guy there when I was photographing his huge date palms. And I says, what about the December 1990 freeze? He says they were completely defoliated and they regrew. The trunks on them were about 20 feet tall at least on these palms. So yes, they can handle below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I think they're hardy. They rate them down to about 20, but mature ones and well-established ones have taken lower, but it depends on the duration of the freeze. So if you have one night of 13 or 15, that may defoliate them but not kill them. But if you have several nights, you have a week straight at 20 degrees Fahrenheit or a little bit lower, probably kill them, right? So it's duration of freezes, everything, even with Trachycarpus, all right? That's why you can't grow Trachycarpus fortunei even in southern Ontario without protection, okay? It's the length of the freeze, the severity, and the low temperatures. Let's just see. Oswin, I planted Trachycarpus Camoan this winter. How long will it take start to grow? I have a lot of trachea and other tropical. Oh, I don't grow that one. Cool. Right on. Well, as if it's in good soil and if it's as fast growing as Trachycarpus fortunei, it'll start to speed up once you get once it develops a little bit of a trunk. But generally, seedlings are fairly slow growing unless you put some heat to them. Paul C. Well, see you later, and everyone. And remember, keep on planting until I run out of room. Yes, good man, Paul. Yes, you'll never run out of room. What you do is you pull out a weed and put in another palm. Mike, wow. That is the same with the olive trees on the island. Thanks. Yeah, lots of olive trees here on Salt Spring Island. You can see my videos. You can actually, they have a website. It's called the Olive Farm on Salt Spring Island. Okay, so if you go to the Olive Farm, Google the Olive Farm on Salt Spring Island, and they actually have George and Sherry Braun, the owners, very nice people. They have a website, and it tells you about the olive farm, and they actually press and sell olive oil. And there's a lot of trees there, and I noticed he planted more. So I'm guessing there's probably about 3,500 olive trees there now. About 8 varieties. C. Centol 1902. I've seen Canary Island dates get damaged almost every year in Mobile, Alabama. 8B climate. Isn't that unreal, eh? Yeah, not on the Oregon coast. If you go to the Oregon coast, they are massive, and I don't think they've ever been damaged in Brookings. Maybe in 1972 when they hit an all-time low of 18 degrees Fahrenheit in Brookings, but it was short-lived. So Brookings is the southernmost town on the Oregon coast, and they call that the banana belt of the Oregon coast or the Northwest. And there are massive date palms everywhere. And I'm talking 60 to 80-foot tall date palms are the biggest and thickest date palms I've ever seen. And when I mean thick, I mean massive trunks you can't even wrap your arms around, and crowns that are absolutely ginormous. And they're very amazing. I've never seen any date palms as nice as the ones they grow on the Oregon coast. You could Google it, Google images, Phoenix canariensis or date palms, Canary Island date palms or palm trees on the Oregon coast, Brookings, Oregon. Brookings, Oregon is the town, and it's a Zone 9B. That's why. It's rare they even get frost there. Okay, once in a blue moon, they might get a light frost. That's about it. Um, yeah, so we got a lot of people in there today. This is a good thing. I'm glad I started a little earlier. It's 1:15 p.m. Pacific time here on Salt Spring Island, and I know it is evening. It's probably maybe 10 o'clock in the evening in some places in Europe. But yeah, so maybe some of these podcasts I'll do a little bit earlier so the European people can join in and chit chat about palm trees. And because I know you all like palm trees, that's why you're here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, would you? And you know, I like to ramble on about them too. Um, South Alabama is a zone. I always find that hard to believe that South Alabama is a zone 8B climate. But you got to remember, an 8B in South Alabama is probably a 9A or even better than a 9A this here. So it's probably a 9B this far north, right? It would be a 9B. It's probably more like the Oregon coast because you guys get the heat and you warm up very fast after a freeze, as where we don't warm up that fast after a freeze. So if it's we'll just say example, if it's 24 degrees Fahrenheit here during a bad freeze, the daytime temperature might only get to about 33 degrees Fahrenheit, as where in southern Alabama, if you go to 24, your daytime temperature might bounce right back to 60 degrees. And that's a lot easier on the palm trees than it is when it only gets to 32 degrees. Captain Redbeard, evening, Joe. Good to see you again tonight. Watched your tour video earlier in the garden. Saw a few cordylines. How do they grow for you? Oh yeah, cordylines grow easy here, and they actually self seed on our island in certain locations here. And cordylines are a hardy plant here. There are some tree size ones in private gardens and even in town. And I know Ireland is full of cordylines. That is probably the tree of choice here. Watch some of my videos on cordylines, cordylines in Tofino on the west side of Vancouver Island. That is also the tree of choice on the west coast of Vancouver Island. They have them in front of all the surf shops, and they have them all over the town of Tofino. Big cordylines that are 25 feet tall and branched and flowering. They're beautiful. Oh yes, the heat. Summers are terrible. Sea sand. Yeah, we don't. Our summers here are very nice. They are very, very good. You're very comfortable. The odd day you may get some high humidity, but maybe 3 humid days all summer. I would say last summer maybe we had 3 or 4 humid days, and you can feel it because you know your shirt feels a little tacky, and you can just feel it in the air. And it's usually when I'm at work, which is a lot worse. I don't like high humidity when I'm working. When I'm not working and I'm at home, hey, it's okay. We'll take the high humidity. I can get a cold drink and I can sit in the shade. But often I'm working out in the full hot sun at work, and the high humidity is a killer. GD Gardens, does eucalyptus Delirium planta fall over easy? I would say no if they're anchored in well. So ours are growing in rock, and they're about 100 feet tall. Okay. Where are we? Right there. You see those trees there, and see those silvery trees over there. Let's see. Those are eucalyptus Delirium planta. Those are about 100 feet tall, and they are anchored into rock. Okay, so I grew those from seed, and I planted them as little seedlings, okay, nearly 3 decades ago. And the best way to plant a eucalyptus is small and put it in some fairly rocky soil. If you're in really soft soil, they will blow over, and even the snow can take them down too. So remember that when planting eucalyptus trees, kind of like arbutus trees. See those? Those are our native madrona broadleaf evergreen. Those are anchored into rock. We live on rock here, okay? Sandstone and shale, so you really don't get a lot of blowdown of trees here. If you're in softer soil, yeah, I would say if you had some winds or some heavy snows, they could topple over because the soil around the roots is soft. Oh yes, the heat. Summers are terrible. We have 3 humid months. Wow, that's a lot. I would die. PSM, see you next time, Joe. Yes, see you next time, PSM. Thanks for joining in, buddy. And yeah, stay tuned for the next live stream. You know, I've been doing a lot of these now because they are kind of fun. and I like to have fun. And later on, I'm going to go down into the nursery and pot some stuff up after this. Still early here; it's only 1:19 p.m. I'll probably go to 1 hour and 11 minutes because that's a good number, and then we'll call her quits for today. And remember, always first Friday of every month between 5 and 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. I will do a live stream. If it's pouring down with rain here, which I doubt, um, I would do it inside the man cave, or maybe I can do it in Wendy's gallery over there. Her gallery is looking pretty good. Look at that. See that shake gallery over there? Wendy likes to build stuff. She's really good at building, and I like that because I don't like building. I can build, but I'm not a good builder. Not like Wendy. I like to garden, and Wendy likes to garden too, which is a good thing. So, yeah, with eucalyptus trees, I always plant them small, GD gardens. Don't buy big root bound specimens. Those are the worst way to plant eucalyptus trees. Every eucalyptus tree in our garden, I planted small. I've grown most from seed. There's a few in here that a buddy of mine grew from seed and gave me his seedlings. And then there's a few other varieties that I actually bought because they were hard to find. And they were also given to me as seedlings. And they've rooted in well. Water them for the first summer. Put them in. Most of them we have. Well, most of the ones we grow like well draining soil and full sun. If you grow them in shade, they're going to get leggy. Do sago palms grow good there? Yes, we have sago palms here in our garden. They grow slower here, that's for sure. We have two in front of our B&B. You can see them in the video, and they stay out all winter in pots. But what I do with the pots, the pots are about this big. They're terracotta, and I wrap them with bubble plastic so the pots will never freeze in a bad cold snap. And they are growing close to the building and under a little overhang, and they do really well. We also have 3 in the garden: 2 Cycas revoluta and 1 Cycas pachiensis. Do you have any arbutus or monkey puzzle trees? Oh God, arbutus are weeds here, Mike. Arbutus are native here. There's an arbutus right there. See that? And I'm going to show you something if you can see it in the distance. Let's see. In the distance, over there. See those trees way in the distance, right there. Those are over 100 feet tall. Those are native arbutus trees, and they're in full bloom. They're just about done blooming. And then there's another 120 foot one right there. I wonder if you can see it. I'm going to point to it. Right up in there. There it is right there. That's our arbutus tree right there. And there's tons of them in our front yard. So yeah, and we do have monkey puzzles. We have a lot of Ericaria ericana in our garden. There's some huge ones on our island, and a couple of them in our garden I actually grew from seed, from local seed. Yeah, arbutus trees are nice, but they're very messy. The problem with these arbutus trees, and I love them, but they're constantly dropping leaves year round, even though they are a BLE. They're a broadleaf evergreen, and they're also shedding bark like eucalyptus, even though they are not related to eucalyptus, but they are still an absolutely awesome tree, and they are only native to this part of Canada, and they extend right down to, I think, northern Mexico, somewhere on the coast in the Baja. How old are Trachycarpus fortuna when they start to flower? About 10 or 11 years old. That's when I found they start to flower. Gorgeous trees. Any Gary Oaks? Oh God, Mike, Gary Oaks all over the place. We have a lot of smaller ones in our garden. There's no native ones actually on our property, but there are some big old Gary Oaks on our island. They are native here, Quercus garryana, Oregon white oak, and they are protected here on the side of Mount Maxwell. There's a huge grove of them, and certain areas on the south end and here on the north end up on Channel Ridge, tons of Gary Oaks. Where my mom and dad lived on Vancouver Island in Duncan, the next door neighbors had a Gary Oak in their yard. It's still there, and it's 500 years old. It's absolutely massive, and I think I do actually have a video of it here or on my other YouTube channel, Jungle Joe C. You can see it. So Gary Oaks are very slow growers, and they generally grow in very rocky soil. There's some nice ones just around the corner from me here up on the ridge, the rocky ridge, and I've collected a lot of acorns from. Captain Redbud, yeah, we do make our own compost. We have a compost bin, and I work for the Parks Department. So when I hand mow the parks in town, I have Rubbermaid garbage containers, and I dump all the grass clippings into those Rubbermaid garbage containers, and I bring them home for Wendy, and she spreads them around the garden, and we also throw them in the compost, and we mix it with soil and vegetable matter from the kitchen. So in there would be like, potato peels, if you're peeling carrots or whatever, and celery, lettuce, everything else you're not using goes into the compost, and it's full of red wiggler worms. So she takes it out, and she puts it in the garden. But lately we've had a real problem with a big raccoon digging through the compost in the garden and digging up our gardens looking for grubs and worms. So I do have the trap set. It's a live trap. I'm going to catch that sucker and I'm going to get rid of him. I didn't catch him last night, and he was in last night digging up more of the gardens. He dug up more plants, and it's starting to really agitate me. So I got the trap out there. I'm going to told Wendy to cook some chicken tonight. Cook some chicken. I'll put some chicken in the trap for him, and we'll catch that raccoon, and we will let him go farther down the road, far enough away where he's not going to come back and dig up our garden. He'll dig up somebody else's garden. So there you go. Yeah, it's good to have compost. And you know what else we put in the compost too, Captain Redbud, is Redbeard is, I want to say Redbud. I'm thinking of Cersus. Captain Redbeard, we also put seaweed in it, and and just soil from the forest. I'll throw some of that in there too. But seaweed and coffee grounds, they work really well in the compost, and it gets things going in there. And the worms are just happy as pigs in mud in that compost. So it must be getting late there, Captain Redbeard. You're in Ireland. It's got to be, I guess, 8 hours ahead of us or something like that. So you must be getting sleepy. So it's a day off for me here. It's a long weekend. It is Victoria Day long weekend here on the Pacific coast of Canada. I'm pretty sure the rest of Canada has it too. So I'm enjoying my third day off. And the next long weekend would be Canada Day, July 1st. So unfortunately, there's no long weekends in June. So if I was in charge of this country, I'd definitely put a long weekend in June, and I'd probably make it a palm tree holiday. So every palm tree grower, and you can only take it if you have palm trees in your garden. So every palm tree grower would have a long weekend in June. So if you guys were palm tree growers, you would have a long weekend in June, wherever you are. Dogs barking at what? Barking at a birdie? That's our little dog that weighs 8 pounds soaking wet. He's barking at a bird. And yesterday, there was a bunch of deer off the back here eating off the slash pile. They eat cedar, and he was just going freaking berserk on him. I'm happy the deer in our garden do not like palm trees, because I have seen deer eat palm trees, and the bucks with their antlers at a certain time of the year, they like to rut. And when they rut, they can totally destroy a palm tree. They take their antlers and they just shake their head around in there, and they destroy all the fronds. They break them, they bend them, and they cause a lot of damage. So they haven't never done that to any of our palm trees yet. But the rabbits have been in here, and they've chewed a few fronds off the smaller palms. But the rabbit had to go too. When the rabbit got in the garden, man, it made a big mess of the garden. I don't know if any of you guys have wildlife there, but yeah, they can. Deer and rabbits can make a mess. Mike, love the wisteria purple color ones. What's the coldest place you can grow them? I think wisteria is pretty hardy. I always thought wisteria would even grow in Ontario. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I always thought wisteria would grow in southern Ontario, like maybe Windsor, Point Pelee area. So I'm thinking maybe 6B, 7A, something like that. I'd have to Google it or ask somebody out there that lives in Ontario. Maybe I should ask in my group, people who love palm trees and exotic plants. Does anybody in Ontario grow wisteria? Here it grows everywhere. There's a huge one I've shot videos of growing in Vesuvius at Vesuvius Villas. It's amazing. It grows over the arbors. It hangs down, and when you're out in the parking lot, that's all you smell is this highly scented purple wisteria. And there's a big one growing in Rotary Park in town, and it grows like a weed. Now I have to cut it off the fence. And I pulled one of the runners out on the ground, and it rooted. And I brought it here a couple of years ago, and it's grown like crazy. Leaves coming out. It's rooted in nicely. So I'm thinking wisteria are pretty hardy, Mike. I'm thinking a pretty cold hardy plant. Clematis. I think most clematis will probably even grow in Ontario, but not the evergreen ones. We grow the evergreen ones here, and those are my favorite ones. We have one called Freckles, and then we have Clematis armandi, snowdrift, and apple blossom, and they look very tropical. And they bloom in March. They're an absolutely beautiful, fragrant, flowered, exotic vine. So look up Clematis armandi. They are a good companion plant you put in an exotic garden. And you could probably even let them grow up your palm tree and they wouldn't strangle or kill it. Unlike that plant right there. If you ever get that on your palm trees, take it off. Ivy. That's bad. That's English ivy. That stuff is a freaking weed here. And I don't care about that tree. I want it to strangle it. Hey, Wendy, phone call. Can you get it? I can't. I'm live streaming. Sorry, folks. I'm live streaming. I can't take that phone. It's probably a salesman anyway. Maybe it's a palm salesman. Is there such thing as a palm salesman? Sometimes you get those telemarketing people, and they're a real pain in the butt. But and they usually phone around dinner time. So it's good to take their number and then you say, I'll call you back tomorrow when it's your dinner time. All right. Thanks, Mike. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of the weekend as well. Yeah. So I'm gonna get off of here pretty soon in another 12 minutes. I will get off of here. It is 1:29 p.m. here on Salt Spring Island, and we are still live streaming the heck out of it. I'm listening to the message of somebody talking on the phone right now. I can hear the phone machine going. It's definitely not a palm salesman, so I'm in no hurry to answer that. When I get off my live stream, we will answer the phone. So anyway, guys, hope everybody out there, hope everybody's keeping well, and I hope your gardens are flourishing this spring. It's been an amazing spring here on the Southern Gulf Islands. Everything in moderation. We've had, like I say, in the last couple of days, we've had some really nice rain. Not a ton of rain, but enough rain where we don't have to water the garden. And yesterday night we had 1.8 millimeters of rain. And then what was it, a day or two before that, we had 7 something millimeters. It all adds up. And nice gentle rains are the best for the garden. And it just keeps it so lush and happy. And by midsummer, our garden is looking, some of it's starting to look pretty stressed out because the summers here are so dry. And like I say, the membrane of soil on our property is very thin, and there's not a lot to hold the moisture. So that's why Wendy's constantly making soil with the compost. So, but yeah, we got to keep up with that. When I moved here to this place, it was a bare landscape. There was one plant in the entire property in the garden. It was called a forsythia, and I dug that out and I moved it. I was going to just nuke it, but I didn't have the heart to, so I moved it to the back 40 of this upper garden here, and it sat there for years and did nothing until Wendy came into the picture about 8 years ago, and now it blooms like mad. She's got it all pruned up, so Wendy's very good with plants like that. And yeah, it was just kind of existing there, but she's put compost around it. She waters it. She looks after it, and it seems to be a pretty happy camper. I'm like I say, I'm not much into deciduous plants. I like broadleaf evergreens because they look nice year round, and we're fortunate here on the Southern Gulf Islands to grow a lot of broadleaf evergreens, and because climate will permit it. All right, folks, I tell you what, I think I'm going to get out of here soon. It is, I know some of you guys, it's getting late in Europe, and I thank all of you for joining in yesterday. I got cut short because the connection, it comes across the screen, it says connection has ended, bad connection or whatever, and it's just a crappy internet up at this end of the island. Tomorrow, the guy's coming from TELUS to beef up our internet and give us a new router, so okay, Captain Redbeard. Good man. I love to compost. 9:30 p.m. here. Our cat used to hunt rabbits. Yes, yes. Our other cats. When I was with my ex, we had a lot of cats out here, and a lot of wild ones, and they would kill rabbits all the time. Unfortunately, the new cat that Wendy and her daughter got is a really nice kitty, and I don't think that thing would hurt a flea. We only got that thing a few weeks back, and it seems to do a lot more lounging around than running around hunting, unless it is doing some hunting at night. But I haven't seen any rabbit parts around. I just see kitty around. It likes to rub on your legs and do the figure eight. It's a nice kitty, but some of the cats we used to have were killers, and it loved to kill rabbits. And don't get me wrong, folks, I do like rabbits, but they're very bad for our island. Years ago, a lady moved to our island, and she was rescuing all these rabbits, and she let them out. She had them for quite a few years in a big fenced area. She let them out and moved away. And now the rabbits have taken over the island. So some people shoot them. I see a lot of roadkill. Pretty much on a weekly basis, I will see 2 or 3 roadkill rabbits. I've run over a few myself, not on purpose. They just kind of, what they do, they run beside your vehicle, and then they go right out in front of your vehicle. And you don't have any choice but to run over them because they're just there without warning. It's yeah, it's not nice running over a rabbit, but I tell you what, it's maybe one of the ways to keep down on the population. Eagles will get them. We have a lot of eagles here, and I think the owls are also getting them as well. We have a lot of barred owls here, and owls will get the rabbits. And I don't think raccoons kill rabbits. There are mountain lions here. Mountain lions do take down deer. I know they've killed a couple of deer. They killed one on our property last year, and then they killed another one a year or two ago. on the neighbor's property, and they make a real mess of it. So if they want to take out rabbits, that's a good thing. I wouldn't have the heart to ever shoot a rabbit, but I would have the heart to trap a rabbit and let it go somewhere else, which probably doesn't help with the problem because it probably just end up back here anyway. So, all right, folks, I'm going to call her quits. I'm going to shut this thing down until the next live stream. I got stuff to do in the nursery. I'm going to go down there and pot some stuff up. So, cheers to all of you guys for joining in. I really appreciate it. And may your gardens flourish. And until next time, we will see you at the next live stream Palmcast here on this channel. Stay tuned for daily uploads. And as you know, most of it's all pertaining to exotic gardening or just gardening in general. And I like to throw in the odd random video too, just to break up the monotony. All right, take care, everybody. Cheers and aloha from our island here in the North Pacific, Salt Spring Island in the southern Gulf Islands. Hang loose, everybody. Cheers.